Ghostwriter is your partner in code, and it's something that I really can't live without anymore. So in this 5-lesson course, we're going to learn all about Ghostwriter, how it works, and how to get the best out of it. After the next 5 lessons, you too won't be able to go without it. Don't make me go back. I don't want to go back. Seriously though, Ghostwriter is amazing. If you do any amount of development work or you're solving any kind of problems in code, Ghostwriter is for you. Ghostwriter is Replit's coding AI, and it is a paid for feature. But why might you want to start paying us for an amazing tool like Ghostwriter? Ghostwriter makes coding easier, faster, and more fun. It is your AI programming partner, and it makes repetitive code or finding test cases you've never thought of even easier. It has 4 main features: complete code, explain code, transform code, and generate code, each of which we'll cover in a lesson. Today, we're going to cover complete code. And to me, this is where I get the most value from Ghostwriter. Having it turned on all the time so I can always have a little bit of help is a massive benefit for me. So let's get started. Now, the first thing you'll need to do is get Ghostwriter. The easiest way to do this is to get on the free trial. To do that, you'll need to go in the workspace, which you should have open right now, and down on the bottom left is this button that says try Ghostwriter free. Click on that and the pop-up allows you to click to start a 14-day free trial or to purchase it outright. Once you've started the trial, you'll be given some onboarding videos which you can click through because you're doing the course. We'll show you how to use it all in a moment. And you can start trying out Ghostwriter for yourself. If you've previously used a trial or aren't eligible for it, you will need to go and pay for it. To do that, you should see a big button on the left-hand side that says try Ghostwriter. If you click that, you'll be greeted with our pop-up that explains what Ghostwriter is, but let's get buying. Click that buy button, and currently it's $10 or 1,000 cycles a month, and you can set up your automatically rebilling subscription to get that working. Now, you will need to go and get Ghostwriter to participate in these lessons because we're going to be looking at how it works and how to use it. So go get that. If you have dismissed the button in the workspace, you'll need to go to replit.com/ghostwriter to sign up directly. Ghostwriter should be turned on by default, but we can check by going to the settings in workspace and scrolling down to the Ghostwriter option and just making sure it's enabled. Now, this is really handy because that also means you can turn it off. So if you're trying to record a video like I often am where I'm explaining concepts, I turn it off for those because I don't want to confuse learners when Ghostwriter offers some really complex suggestions. So the way in which Ghostwriter works is it understands the code you're writing and tries to suggest, just like a really powerful autocomplete, what the rest of the line or the next line or even the next chunk of code might be. And to start with, we'll build a really classic computer sciencey problem. We're going to try and build a bubble sort algorithm. Bubble sort is quite straightforward and we do teach it at school level, but it's one of those things that is a bit boring and repetitive to write, and that's where Ghostwriter comes into its own. Now, to start it off, what I'm going to do is just leave a comment, and I'm going to set that comment to say bubble sort algorithm. And it's the sort of comment that I might put in the code anyway to explain what's happening to myself. The minute you stop writing that, Ghostwriter will look at that and decide to help you. And you can see straight away there, it's given me a suggested line for the definition for bubble sort. So I'm going to press the tab key to accept that. And the moment I do, it suggests a next possible line, and a next possible line, and a next possible line, and even the array structure and how to call it. So you'll see there that having written one comment line, I've actually produced an entire subroutine for generating bubble sorts. Let's run it and check it works. It is working, but it's not returning anything. So let's go into the code and add that. So I'm just going to find my way to where a return statement would be, and I'm going to start typing. You'll see, even before I've started pressing my first letter, Ghostwriter's understood what I'm going back and doing and suggested the return statement for me. So I'm going to accept that, and that means that I can also print out the result of the bubble sort, and I'm going to use Ghostwriter to even suggest that line to me. And if I run it now, you can see it working. Go try it out for yourself. Use a hash symbol to start your comment, describe what you'd like it to do, and then just start pressing tab. Now, of course, the beautiful thing about code completion is that if I'm going back and changing and refactoring the code, it can help me out here as well. One of the things we often want to do with something like a sorting algorithm is time how long it's going to take. So I could go back in and just put another comment in to work out the time of the function, and very quickly Ghostwriter suggests everything I need. When I run it this time, it not only performs the sort, but tells it how long it took. This sort of code is the stuff that is reasonably straightforward to write, but is an enormous faff and takes up a lot of your time. This sort of thing is where Ghostwriter excels, because if I wanted a bubble sort algorithm and I wanted to time it, that would be an investment of the best part of 20 minutes of my time normally. And here we've done it in just under 2, and I've explained to you as I was going what was happening. Let's take a look at another example and a common use case, web scraping. I'm going to prompt it to create a web scraper using Beautiful Soup that scrapes the headlines from bbc.co.uk, and let's see what happens. So it's suggesting my imports, it's suggesting my URLs, it's suggesting everything I need, including the loop, and let's run it. Now it's run, but it hasn't actually printed anything out. So I'm thinking that probably what the issue is here is that the things it's looking for in the code on line 10, the divs with the class news content, is probably not right for the BBC website. It's taken a stab at it, but it's not quite right. So let's go in and see what that is. On the BBC News website, if we inspect that element, we'll see that it's actually called GSC promo heading, and it's actually an anchor tag. So let's go and change that manually. And if we run it now, you'll see it's pulling out their headlines. And that is really, really effective. The vast majority of that code is brought in automatically for you by you suggesting it, and all you need to do is give it a little bit of a tweak. Why don't you go and see if Ghostwriter can pull in the news headlines of a site of your choice with very little input from you. Another common use case, and somewhere where I'm not great at, is suggesting test cases for programs. Let's build a simple program like a subroutine for generating the factorial of a value, another common problem we might have. So it suggested that for us. And now what I'm going to do is ask it to suggest test cases for me. Now, test cases in Python are in the format assert. It asserts something that should be true, and if it doesn't come back true, it'll crash. So you can see there that it's not only suggesting sensible test cases, it's suggesting loads of them for me. I'm not having to go and work out what factorial 10, 11, and 12 is to get these right. It's inserting it for me. And in fact, I've put in, 14 test cases there in the matter of a few seconds, all of which I've barely had to think about at all. And if I run that, you'll see that it runs with no output. That's because there hasn't been an error. If I go in and change one around just a little bit to show you what would happen if it was wrong, then you'd get a crash like that. But thankfully, Ghostwriter has not only produced us a nice factorial algorithm, but test cases as well to check it works, and it's all done that in the space of a few seconds. Why don't you go and try and create a factorial algorithm and see what suggestions it gives you when you ask it to construct test cases. Now, even things you might want to pull your hair out for, Ghostwriter helps. I know, it's happened a lot to me, I see that. But one thing that's always frustrated me for my entire career, and I've had to teach this to young people and hated every second of it, is Tkinter. Tkinter in Python is the go-to GUI library, but it's horrendous. It's like programming Java Swing back in 1990, and I remember doing that too. There's no visual drag and drop editor, there's no way of doing it easily, so not only do you have to construct it all in code manually, but you also have to go back and double check the syntax and make sure everything's working as you think it does every single time. I find Tkinter GUI development quite time consuming and frustrating, but Ghostwriter makes that so much more efficient. I'm going to create a prompt for it based on a comment here, and I'm going to say create a simple login page in Tkinter that has a username and password field as well as a login button to log in. Okay, so you can see it's suggesting for me lots of good stuff here, and I'm just accepting these with the tab key, and I'll know we're done when I get to the main loop. There we go, fantastic. And let's run it and see what we get. Happy days, an easy login system built with Tkinter there. And if I log in with the correct username and password, which is suggested for me as admin and admin, you'll see a pop-up box telling me I've logged in successfully. Now, for me to do this in Tkinter, that's probably again about 20 minutes of me going through documentation, Googling things, and honestly, shouting and swearing at myself for getting it wrong every single time as I go with it. With Ghostwriter, I haven't sworn at my computer in a significant amount of time. See what Takinta GUI you can build in the next few minutes. So another common thing that you might want to do is use object-oriented programming. Object orientation is great, but there's a lot of repetition when you're defining stuff for the first time. Again, Ghostwriter can help this. I'm going to ask it to create an OOP definition for an enemy character in a video game. I can even define subroutines that should exist within it, things like is alive, get health and get damage, all things that I'd like to build. And let's just start accepting the suggestions. So it's done the initialization code for me, set the values. It's done the attack system, which is great. It's even using nice F strings to bring in some output for the user. It's giving me a defend function. It's giving me a print function. And then I'm going to ask it just to instantiate an enemy called Eric. And you'll see there that I've got an enemy called Eric. I'm going to do eric.printself to see what happens. And you'll see there that that entire definition was not only valid, but done in a couple of seconds time. Again, what we're getting with Ghostwriter is enormous savings of time and a peer programmer who's got your back and is there. Okay, we've seen just how great automatic completion of code with Ghostwriter is. Let's see what you can do with it. I'd like you to create a program that automatically scrapes the news headlines from a website of your choice. I'm going to use the BBC because we've done it once before. And I'd like you to save those headlines in a CSV file. I'd also like you then to pump those headlines into a Takinta GUI to show the top 5 headlines of the day and have a button to save the CSV file whenever it loads. Hopefully this is going to be a 5-minute job for you, which would normally be a significant investment of time. See what you can do. In the next lesson, we'll be looking at how explain code works, which, I'll be honest, is a lifesaver because who actually writes comments in their code anyway?